Okay, Dave, let's check if we're live.
Oh, you went go live.
I
wasn't making notes.
I could see you
That's
making
how
notes.
much
That's a
prep.
bit. That's a bit.
Is that a bit proud?
That's a bit proud. That was it.
Yeah.
Let's check if we're live. I am hopefully. Dave, are we live? I've literally just checked.
I got a feeling we are, mate. Any minute now, someone's going to pop in the chat. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Any minute.
Wait for it. Wait for it. I hope it. Yes, we are
Hang on.
live.
Should that be plugged in?
You were waiting for that. You were.
Sam Weller. How's
you
it
were waiting
going,
for that.
Sambo?
Hey Sam, I'll bring up the chat. Sam is the first on today. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
And then
Looks like it's just us.
Ricky J. Sam and Ricky J.
It's always good actually because it's rare these days. Obviously, I know I see the chat on here, but
Angus.
I go to the
Ross.
actual thing. But it looks fantastic.
That's the
But
most Scottish name ever.
it's a great name, Angus.
My mum would like that name. She's going to call me Rory, I think, which is a Scottish
You were
name.
going to be called Rory.
But yeah, because she's Scottish and she wanted a Scottish name.
See, I can't look past Dave with you. It'd just be anything weird.
It's
now.
weird, isn't it, that they went from like my mum wanted a Scottish name to David.
Which is why your middle name's Douglas.
No, because that's my
Well,
dad's
your
name, and he's
right?
Welsh.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's no there's no Scottishness there.
Welcome to today's edition of the Scottish Tuesday Tune-In.
Yeah, exactly.
No, thanks for joining everyone. Apologies, we're just chinwagging here, but I hope all is well on this beautiful Tuesday. Don't know what it's like with you guys, but yeah, it's
Absolutely
rare we get this sunshine in Wales, so we're making the most of it.
The sky is blue. Like you guys can't see it, so you'd have to take our word for it. But you can see this plant is very lit up and our mood is lifted. And I think that's because of all the vitamin D we're getting, you know?
I think so. Went for a dip in the sea last night. It was just after the lovely busy weekend, but it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Paul Taylor booked TubeCal for January 20 minutes ago. Wow, Paul, on it. Well done, mate. TubeCal is a brilliant trip. Absolutely gonna love it, and we'll actually be talking a little bit about that today.
I think Stuart's a Scottish name. Pixie MacLeod, that's definitely Scottish. MacLeod.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a Scottish theme, but I'm just noticing that there's quite a lot of it, and I like it. I'm half
Do you think it
Scottish
was
after all.
anything to do with the reference to Billy Ocean?
What?
Just about when the going gets tough.
Oh, is he Scottish?
No, he's not Scottish. I don't know why.
I was like, I mean,
but Scottish people
they like
toughness.
Billy Ocean, do they? he's an adopted son of Scotland.
Any fans of Billy Ocean here? Definitely. Bri has literally just booked TubeCal as well.
Yeah.
Afternoon, Bri. Great to see you booked on another trip, mate. Feels like it's been ages since you've been on a trip. So yeah, it's about time, mate. We want to stop you from running, get you back to walking. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. We got Darren. Darren, how you doing? Good to see you on here. We got Paul, Rachel, Stuart. Great stuff. It's nice to see lots of regular Evertrekkers as well and some new ones. So yeah, if this is your first Tuesday tune-in, welcome. Today we wanted to kind of go back. I don't know if you were here a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Angus Ross, that Billy Ocean legend.
Yeah, did you see where he's a Scotsman with a Somerset accent residing in the West Country? So he's just gathering sort of allegiances.
Is that what it is? But yeah, because it's basically September marks 8 years since we ran our first trip in Nepal in 2016. Nice click, Dave.
Yeah, sorry. I think the mic might have got that as well.
I know. I was thinking that's quite loud.
Yeah.
And essentially, obviously, the first one we talked about, some of our highlights, some of our best bits.
Mm-hmm.
But today we wanted to
talk about our low lights and worst bits.
But sometimes I always think, some of the best trips I've been on, some of the moments you remember are always when it's hard, always when it's difficult, and when it doesn't always go to plan. But the tough moments, really, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about some bits and also ask you as well about your tough moments.
Yeah.
But also about some ways to overcome them as well. And hopefully you can glean a golden nugget from something that we talk about over the next hour.
Talking about tough moments, I am wishing Rachel Howlett the best recovery possible. Trapped at home with a broken hip. Just that sentence sounds awful. But if I know Rachel, and I think I do, she's so positive that she's not thinking of it like that. She's thinking of it as just another hill to get over before she starts the trip to EBC.
Exactly, Rachel. Yeah. Speedy recovery, mate. Hopefully before next September. You've obviously got a year, so you got to look at, maybe it's good timing, bad timing. I don't know if you postponed, but yeah, Rachel. I know one thing: when you actually do go there, it'll be all the more special for it. being through those challenges.
Yeah.
And we talk about that today as well, because I think especially over the last 4 years, even before then, we have things that crop up from time to time, injuries, certain unexpected change of circumstances, all that stuff. Obviously, we had the big Mr. COVID that was around for best part of 2 years that messed up with all of our plans. And then it was basically when you did go on trips then, when it actually felt amazing.
Yeah.
To get out there in the mountains and just do the trekking and push yourself through challenges, whatever challenges those are. And it certainly makes it all better, doesn't it?
COVID was a laugh, to be fair, wasn't it? I think that, talking about challenges, I mean, that was a bit of a dirty challenge. That was
difficult,
bit of a curveball that Mother Nature throws you away every now and again, which can be part of the challenge. I think what I thought, though, was I think March 2020, obviously COVID hit, and I thought to myself, that's a real big problem. But then by April 2020, I thought, do you know what? It's not that big enough. I need to completely destroy my left knee.
So, Dave, well, I mean, you felt like you needed more things to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I was locked down for about a year.
Yeah.
And then we were allowed out again. Within about 3 bike rides, I completely destroyed my knee, which was just pure bounce.
It was a lot of bounce.
And so, although it's a different thing, Rach, I do know what you're going through to a degree.
Yeah.
Because in April 2021, I went out mountain biking. God, you know me, I never talk about this, but I will for Rachel's sake. And I crashed my mountain bike and did a number of wild things to my knee. First one was I completely snapped my ACL, so that's gone. That's somewhere on a hill in Wales. I tore my MCL and I had 3 fractures through my knee.
Yeah.
Which meant that I couldn't walk on my knee because of the fractures. Yeah. The ACL, ironically, after a while you can walk, but the fractures were a nightmare.
Yeah.
So Andy actually bought me a chair, which was hilarious.
With wheels?
With wheels, yeah. And then crutches, and then finally the operation, and then all the recovery. So it did sideline me for at least a year.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And it is really, really tricky to get over things like that. That's one of the first things that come to my mind, and I do speak to a lot of people who have had I've got this back problem or this knee injury or this hip injury.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that with a few readjustments of mindset, it's very simple to overcome. Do your physio, get mobile, stay mobile, and don't expect too much of yourself on the trip was what my first thing was.
Yeah.
When I first went out there, I thought I'm not going to be what I used to be, and that's okay.
But the thing is, that happens, isn't it? Because And do drop your questions as well. I'll just put something up in the below there. Do drop your questions about anything. I know that who was it? I believe it was Sam mentioned there. Perfect timing to tune in. Feeling a bit anxious about EBC and great. This is sort of things we want to talk about because you're not the only one. But as Dave said, then obviously went through significant challenges, and at that time regardless of physical stuff, your mental state went downhill, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it plummeted. I mean, I'm still recovering from the side effects of that because your mental state goes down because it was April 2021. It was a great summer, and all my friends were going to the beach. They were going mountain biking. They were going out and having fun and seeing each other, and I couldn't do any of that. Like, if I did, I felt like I was a burden because I was so slow and on crutches, and there were things I couldn't do and places I couldn't go. So you were like left behind in the car while your friends went and did things. And after a while, you think, well, I'd rather just stay home. And then you end up in this weird downward issue where I wasn't going out, I wasn't doing any exercise. However, my calorie intake, I think, trebled during that period.
Yeah.
And then you end up having like one too many beers of an evening, and because all you're doing is sat there, and it was an absolute nightmare of a time.
Yeah.
However, what I did do was I decided early on that I was gonna get back to normal, or what the surgeons would call a new normal. But
you have a goal.
That was always my belief that I was gonna get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's slow, and you have that's the one thing. It's the enforced slowness. Yeah. I had my operation, and then I thought, right, well, I've had my operation now, so now I'm recovered.
Yeah.
So, but no, it takes another year or 9 to 12 months.
That's it. It took a while, didn't it? But and that was definitely a tough moment. And something hopefully shared today is if you are going through tough moments, remember the goal. Remember what you're aiming for. I think sometimes that can get kind of, you forget about these things when you're going through certain difficult stuff, whether that's mental, whether that's physical, or both at the same time. I know on a trek, if you're, for instance, we get some people that, suffering with the altitude, not quite acclimatizing as well as other people, maybe they're a bit slower than other people, and they kind of forget why they're there. You forget why you've paid a lot of money, you've got really fit, or you've done what you can, bought the equipment, we've went out there, and sometimes you forget about it. So I think firstly, always remember why you did, and why you chose to do what you do. Always remember the goal as well. Like Dave, I know you, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but we used a trip as a goal. You're like, right, Dave, your goal is to get fit by the time we go to Mount Toubkal.
Yeah, and thank God we postponed it. Because the initial goal wouldn't have been feasible.
That's true.
But yeah, we were going to go, I think, in October, and we didn't, and then we ended up going in, I think, April, was it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a lot of factors at that time. But it was. Yeah,
I think there was still some COVID travel, but that helped, that extra time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the enforced slowness is what really killed me. The fact that I wanted to go out and just whatever physio they told me I had to do, I wanted to do that. Well, if I do 3 times more, I'll heal 3 times quicker. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it was like physio, spending time in the pool, riding my mountain bike, and I'd gone from being able to ride pretty technical downhill black runs to really struggling to get 3 miles on a canal path.
Yeah.
So mentally you're a bit low. However, the one thing that I did to get through it was I kept the idea in my mind that forward is forward, progress is progress.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how slow you're going.
Says there, mate.
And I got rid of all any sense of ego, any sense of competitiveness, even with myself. I just decided I'm going to do this for myself in a positive way, and I'm going to get back and I'm going to go summit Mount Toubkal. Ironically, I failed, but that wasn't my knee's fault. My knee was fine.
Your knee was fine, exactly. And there was something else then physiologically going on with you.
But that it was one of those things where, like, you all that time the knee was good enough to summit, and then I get like a sinus infection that meant that I couldn't summit. Because that was my recovery summit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back there like a maniac. I was like, I want to go back, and I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think having a goal, if that's a trip, great. If it's being able to do a half marathon, if it's being able to walk for an hour, it really does help to have a goal and keep it in mind. And I tell you what, right, the little victories along the way, and Rachel probably going to experience this. It's like I remember the similar feeling, right? The first time I ever wanted to get fit, and I was real fat at one point.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to get fit, so I ran a 5K, but it took me quite a while to do a 5K. And since then, I did 10K and a half marathon.
Yeah.
Crossing the line in the half marathon, doing my first 10K, did not feel how I felt when I did that first 5K.
What you felt like $1 million?
That was like I punched the air, because it was bigger for me to overcome 0 to 5K than it was 5K to a half marathon.
Was it like Rocky run up the steps and kind of?
I remember. It took me about 40 minutes, so it wasn't quick.
Yeah.
I was down Cardiff Bay and along the barrage, and when I looked at my watch and it's 5K, I literally went like, get in. And
brilliant.
Those milestones that you reach along the way, if we're talking specifically about recovery, that's what I lived for.
Yeah.
Being able to bend my knee completely. The first day I did it, get in.
It's great.
First time I could swim a length in the pool, get in. And like every single
small
one of them.
Victories, Dave.
So breaking it down.
That's another biggie. Is obviously we talked about goals, and Dave's alluded to it there. The next one we want to talk about is kind of chunking it down. These big nasty kind of things that you put on the pedestal, essentially these challenges, they can seem not impossible, but they seem massive and almost unreachable. And it's not until you actually break it down into smaller chunks that you can achieve. Like Dave said there, if you'd went off the bat and went and tried to do a half marathon, probably would have killed you.
Yeah.
But the fact is that you aim for smaller goals, smaller achievable goals, before you reached the goal that you were aiming for.
Yeah.
And I think especially when it comes to treks, some of these treks, you're out there for 2 weeks, and a couple of days in, you're thinking, oh man, I can have 10 days of this. If you're struggling.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to look for small victories. It could be that in the next 10 minutes, you've got 100 steps and you're going up a bit of an incline, and you kind of something that I kind of used, especially when I wasn't at my most fittest, on the way to Everest Base Camp the very first time, is that I used to count a lot. So not just the breathing, but count to sort of 20 or 30 and then have a little bit of a rest if I was really struggling. And those goals then made me feel great because I was like, yeah, I made it. I made 20 steps. And then I was fine. And then my heart rate went down a bit. And then I went again and then I made another 20 steps or 30 steps. And I felt like I was winning.
Yeah.
Even though, okay, you know, it may have been still like, you know, 7 days away from Everest Base Camp, but I felt like I was winning that moment, that day. It's the same when, you know, we reframe certain situations.
Yeah.
Because I could have framed that as I'm really struggling at the moment, but I didn't. I reframed it as that I'm actually winning in that small moment, and that helped me positively.
I do it a lot
You know
when I'm hiking. I never do the counting because I haven't got the mind to keep counting when I'm feeling like knackered. But I always pick a point.
Yeah, as a goal
to get to. Yeah. And depending on, you know, if I'm just trundling along the flat, I just keep walking. I don't think about it. I think about something else. But usually if I'm going up a real steep hill, you know, a couple of hills come to mind. One is Douglas Pass, an EBC trek where you head into Le Boucher, and it's quite high altitude at that point. It's over nearly 5,000 meters and you're sort of zigzagging up to Memorial Hill. I usually look up and there'll be like a rock or something a couple of turns ahead, and I think like I got to get there.
Yeah.
And and that's how I manage my pace going uphill. Breaking it down, it's the same way as recovering from like any type of injury or training milestone. You know, never go for the end result right away. That's always there as the main goal, but breaking it down and being like, so with the knee, it was like, okay, I need to straighten my knee.
Yeah.
So I need to do all the physio I can to straighten it. And then it's like, right, now I got to be able to bend it. Now I got to be able to do a full squat. Now I've got to be able to walk for an hour.
Yeah.
Now I've got to be able to jog, ride my bike. Those little things really help.
Small things that get you to the bigger goal. And, thanks for your comments as well. I just saw, who was that? I think it was Alex. What was it he said? I don't care if I have to tie myself to a yak train. I'm getting to EBC. See, that is called perseverance. So Alex, 100%. I recommend not doing that. But I reckon you're still going to get to EBC anyway. But mate, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Jim Blues, Rich. Oh, look, we got Andrew, Dave Remington, and of course, Mr. Rock Carrier himself, Jerome. Oh, it's great to see some of the Evertracker legends on here, and great questions as well. I mean, we will pick up the questions actually, just because I think there's some really good ones.
Yeah, that's coming in.
Whilst we are talking about this as well, do share your tough moments. If there's any tough moments around any of the trips that you've been on, be interesting to share, you know, maybe how you've turned that around, what worked for you. I know some of you guys are sharing this already, but yeah, it's just interesting to see how it kind of, obviously we're talking from our own experiences. It's great to see how, you know, lots of our Evertrackers have overturned challenges.
100%. I love to hear, like, as much as I want everyone to be at the peak of their physical ability and fly these trips, when I hear about things that people overcome, like, you know, I heard the stories of Jerome on Toubkal, Rachel's journey that she's just embarked on now, the rest of the guys, Alex, you know, they've all asked stuff, and it's like, it makes you realize when you have these sort of conversations that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And that's big for me as well. Like, one of the things I'll never ever forget, right, was when I did hurt myself, and I did a Tuesday tune-in about it. So I hurt myself on Saturday, did the Tuesday tune-in. And that night I had about 40 messages.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of messages, didn't you? Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Like, this forum's strange, right? Because we get on here and we talk, but I never really have a sense of people listening. People do, and they ask questions.
People listen sometimes.
But you never really, you know, it's
because they're not talking back to you straight away. Obviously,
I don't feel like I'm on TV or anything like that. You know, it's just, I'm just talking to mates.
Yeah.
And then when you get like messages, it made me feel like I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And that was like super boosting at that moment. And this is what this forum can be for other people.
Exactly.
They can see and meet and talk, and it does make a big help.
Especially like the High Altitude Evertrackers group as well. Like, you know, anything, and you don't have to post as you can post anonymously as well. If there's anything that you know, because I know there are some sensitive subjects out there, you can just post anonymously. So there we go. But you can obviously post in there, and people will, you know, I'd like to think it's a really good community. There's a lot of people there have been on treks with us, some haven't, but lots of people in the mountain world and just the trekking world altogether, and it's really great actually. Just if you're not in there, highly recommend it. It's really, really useful kind of forum, really. And obviously managed by us. But yeah, with questions then, Dave, I did see, just while you're on the subject of ACL, because I know a few people on here, I think Paul Taylor mentioned around, he's had an ACL reconstruction. Mentioned about cold affecting your joints more since your since your injury. Does that happen?
Since my industry, yeah. It does.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the knee working.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the same as you, I had the ACL reconstruction. Luckily, I've only ever had one knee op, not four. I think, yeah. So we're probably in a similar position. I think, yeah, 100%. The cold doesn't do it any favors. That's for sure. I find what happens is that it gets an ache that I struggle to get rid of if my knee gets too cold. I notice it more when I'm skiing.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure why, because when I'm walking, I tend to be walking the whole time. But when you're skiing, there are times when you're sat down and you
feel the cold,
and I can feel it more. So I think then it makes a difference. Honestly, the way I've got around that is by buying like an insulated knee support. And they are out there. Even neoprene ones, they get a bit sweaty, but they really do add heat to the area. And it really makes a big difference. The other thing I did one time where I had I can't remember how I ended up with this in my bag, but I had like a hand warmer.
Yeah.
And I just like cracked it and put it on the knee. And I know some people say ice and cold and stuff like that, but sometimes, right, my knee is working how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I just want to feel better. So put the heat on it, and the heat really makes a big difference in terms of getting rid of that ache. Cold, in a cold environment, when people say like, oh, try put a cold compress on it, the ache stays there, and that drives me to distraction. So I think, just wearing a knee support, an insulated one, if you're in a really cold environment, makes a big, big difference.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. I think I did hear someone else as well talk about it. I think it might have been Dave Remington, just around, because it is scar tissue, it is susceptible to temperature differences. So yeah, it's one of those that, again, makes it more challenging, but can be managed. I think as well, Alex mentioned around shin splints. I know I had them years ago, probably early 20s.
I've never had it.
Yeah, it was really bad
when I was
backpacking. It's because basically it's if you have a lot of the reason I had it was I had a lot of weight. I was carrying my dive gear and all my backpack as well, so I had a lot of weight. And yeah, my shins just couldn't handle it. And yeah,
what is it? Is it like small fractures in the shin or something?
Yeah, it's literally what it is. It's splints.
Little stress fractures and stuff.
Not quite fractures, but essentially, I don't know what.
Is it like if you shock the bone, it gets like.
It's just basically the bones can't handle the amount of weight that happens, and especially some people do get it if they don't do a lot of walking, then do like a really big walk. It can happen. But yeah, it's certainly, I don't know, rest, obviously recovery. Obviously we're not medically trained, but when it comes to stuff like that, I would speak to someone if you're suffering. Yeah. But Alex, it doesn't mean you can't do stuff. I think it just means that you have to manage that again. Especially if it recurs, because I know sometimes it can be a bit of a weakness there. But I think Dave makes a good point, is that it's to do with your load. So, if you are on an EBC trip or any of our trips, where you're just carrying your day pack, just try and make it as light as you can. And that helps with altitude as well. So, you don't really want to go more than 5 kgs. So you want your water in there, obviously your snacks, maybe some pair of gloves, waterproof jacket, beanie, all that hopefully will be only a few kgs. Sooner you drink the water, the lighter it'll get, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's something to be aware of. But yeah, it's interesting actually. I wonder how any other kind of Evertrekkers had shin splints. So it'd be interesting to kind of hear how they've managed it. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I hear they're a nightmare.
Yeah, it can be. It can be.
It's
really
one of those
bad.
things. Recently, I don't know what it is. It's like a cliche. You turn 40 and you start collecting all these weird issues. But I got the plantar fasciitis for the first time.
You've been struggling with that, haven't you?
Oh, it's been driving me mad. It's getting a bit better because I'm wearing these shoes, these new trainers. But they're not new. I bought them in 2021.
You're only now wearing them.
But I didn't like
you for now.
Funny enough, I didn't think they were comfortable. I thought the arch was too high.
Yeah.
As it turns out, that would have saved me a lot of bother.
That's what
I think what it was I bought Hockers.
Excuse me.
And they were so comfortable. I just wore them every day for about 6 months.
Yeah.
That's all I wore. And I think I weakened my footbed. And then when I went into the Glencoe Challenge, so that was nearly 28 mile that time, I think that I battered it.
Yeah.
And now it's horrendous.
That's what's forced it to be.
It's getting
really
better
big.
though, little by little.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing as well. A lot of people have. I saw a few comments around anxiety around EBC. I know it's not a question, but clearly it's on your minds. So I thought we'll tackle that a little bit, because I think Elaine, maybe EBC in 6 months' time. So in the spring. I think other people maybe have got it coming up as well. And look, it's completely natural. I think, I don't know about you, Dave, but I know the first time I went to EBC, the first time I went to altitude was EBC. I'd done a little bit of skiing, a couple of 1,000 meters. But the first time with real altitude was EBC, and it was on my mind, especially because I'm an asthmatic. How was I going to deal with that? So, and not knowing that. So yeah, it's just a natural process. One thing I would say is that hopefully, when we're talking about it now, is that a lot of people feel this way. Just remember, again, while you're going there, do as much as you can before you go from a fitness perspective, so you enjoy it. You don't need to be elite runner, or obviously the fitter you are, it's just just enjoy it more. You won't be so battered after every day. You'll be less fatigued because you're used to cardio work, and your legs are used to it as well.
Yeah.
But just remember that everyone feels that way, and it's always the unknown. Hopefully, you're seeing people, everyday people do it like us, like all the Evertrek community. Everyday people do take on these challenges and complete it and are fine.
Yeah.
Lots of the anxiety can stem from maybe altitude. Obviously, I haven't been there before. How's my body going to adjust? Stick with the tried and tested. Go slow. Drink plenty of water. Listen to your guide. Try and have a good time. Try and enjoy it. When you're in these mountains, and it's an amazing place to be. Very, very powerful place, certainly. And you'll get to Everest Base Camp, I'm sure. But yeah, just obviously anything around that, we'd love to have a chat and help you before you go. Like I said, post in the group as well. I'm sure people will give you what worked for them in that way.
I've been making notes. Alexandra's been helping me with plantar fasciitis
oh, really?
Stretches.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Everyone keeps saying that. There's not a... I want to sort of take a pill.
Stretch those calves.
Or have an operation, but again, it's enforced slowness, stretching, conditioning, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I'm going to do that, Alexandra. Thank you very much. Nice. Simon Knox has said, how do I do coming downhill, Dave? Well, this has got a lot better recently.
I was going to say, you're quicker downhills these days.
Oh, mate, I'm like a mate.
A couple of weeks ago in Cornwall, you, normally, I'm quickest downhill, but I was like, Dave's downhill.
Honestly, I was never I was normal going downhill. I wasn't the quickest, I wasn't the slowest.
Yeah.
Just, I go downhill and no one noticed. And when I hurt my knee, like Andy can testify, I became like, it was, I don't know, like a Bambi on ice on every rock, it was so slow.
Yeah.
And I had to go slow because I was just so weak on the knee, and every little slide would potentially fall, and God, it was a nightmare. And I blow my quads out all the time because they were so tight. They burn out, and then once they burn out, you'd like, oh my God. But I got really fed up a bit after a while. It was really starting to drive me mad. And then just instinctively, I thought, I'll just train legs. So I trained legs like a minimum twice a week, plus doing some mountain biking. And when I train legs, I train how I should train the rest of my body.
Yeah.
Like, I really go for it, I'm like, I want to walk like John Wayne leaving the gym. And there's been a couple of times where I've got off the leg extension and my legs have been like wobbly, and I've had to hold myself.
That's good though. You push yourself then.
Yeah.
And that way. Yeah.
And let me tell you, I have turned my quads into like 2 Titanic steam pistons. So now
they're pretty strong.
I'm really strong on the quads now.
Yeah.
Really strong on the quads. And let me tell you, it is transformed. Now I'm like one of the quickest downhill. I just got the power there now, and it's all because of trained legs.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
And I will say as well, what I did do was I didn't train that hardcore straight away. I did build up to it because with a knee injury, you don't want to go too insane. I also realized that when you have a knee injury, there's a lot of compensation happening.
Yeah.
So someone in the gym told me like, oh, why don't you try single leg extensions on the leg extender and Bulgarian split squats and all that stuff to kind of isolate. And then I realized that my right leg was about a third stronger than my left leg.
It's mad.
So when I'm doing them together, it's lifting the majority of the weight. So by switching and doing single leg, it takes longer, and I don't want to be in the gym. I get bored. But just forcing myself to do that, and it made an amazing difference.
Yeah, and it's getting out there as well. Like obviously you got the strength part, and then you want to build, call it endurance in that. And I think then that's helped, isn't it? And I know Jerome's put some really good advice there from our Tour de Mont Blanc guide, Nadia. And yeah, there's obviously certain things that work for different people, but certainly for me, because I'm quite quick downhill, it's kind of just being as kind of supple as you can. Trying using your poles, definitely.
Poles help as well.
Poles are massive downhill. It's at least there's some stats there. There's about 30% easier, and certainly 30% less strain through the knee by using poles. And then just find what works for you. Generally, I kind of try and, I say step with confidence, but essentially the slower you are almost, it's like skiing. If you're skiing slow, you're more likely to fall over. If you're going quicker, it actually finds it's easier. It's similar with going downhill. When you've got a bit of speed going downhill, it actually gets a bit easier. Obviously not, you want to temper that a little bit when you're going down. But I think Simon has a good point there. Simon's mentioned asking about downhill because it seems a return from EBC is like 3 days. I know I'm going to suffer. And I think Simon's asked, do you guys ever accompany groups to EBC? Yeah. So me and Dave, when we do go on trips, obviously we'd love to be on all of them, but we do about 65, 70 groups a year. And we do go on certain ones that we kind of, if there's any specific reason we're on them. Obviously, we don't lead these trips. They are, we use local guys, local support. Obviously, we are trekkers and mountaineers ourselves, so we do go out on these trips. Like I've done Everest Base Camp 5 times. I know you've been to Everest Base Camp 4 times. So yeah, we do go on them. We'd love to get away from the office more, trust me. But yeah, hopefully in the next sort of 12 months we'll be out on more EBC trips, definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean that would be amazing. But yeah, as well, I think Simon going downhill. Yeah, the three. Well,
it's a lot of up on that.
There's a lot of up. There's actually more. There's more up
there is,
than you'd expect when you're dropping that much altitude.
Yeah.
There's a big climb to get up to Tengboche. It's annoying because on the way up to EBC, there's a big climb to get to Tengboche. And on the way down to Lukla, there's a big climb to get to Tengboche. Yeah. Tengboche is on the middle of this like hill like that. So, honestly, my advice as well would be everyone on the last 3 days. There will be some members of the group that just want to sort of plow ahead. It's the last 3 days they want to get back. Don't feel the pressure to do that. Go at your own pace, do your own thing, and enjoy the trek. I sometimes suffer from like this mindset of, all right, I've done what I've come to do now. I just want to get back.
Yeah.
But the best treks are the ones where...
It's a lovely journey on the way back, though. I do love it.
Yeah, if you're just sitting with your mates and bantering and chatting and treating it like you did on the way up, you won't really notice much difference. That's like, they are longer days. To be honest, there's no way I can ever convince myself to enjoy Namche to Lukla. That's a beast.
It is a beast.
But, I mean, I say enjoy. I do enjoy it. I'm out there. I'm in the Himalaya.
Yeah.
But there ain't no getting away. You just want to get back to Lukla. Get
for a beer
and relax,
that's very true. That's very true. No, it is great. And yeah, it seems mad, doesn't it? Because you think on the descent, it should be more down than up. And there is, obviously. But yeah, it doesn't feel that way. Certainly. But yeah, definitely enjoy it. It's absolutely, as Dave said, you're in the Himalayas. It's part of the trip. I think Jim mentioned there as well. Also as well, because of the more oxygen, you start to feel more perkier. So even though you're doing longer distances, there's more oxygen. So you don't feel like you did at, say, Gorekchep. 5,200 meters, you're feeling a lot better. You've got almost double the amount of oxygen that you had back in Gorekchep. So yeah, you'll start to feel amazing on the way down. Obviously, you'll be fatigued and tired, but it won't be long, and you'll be there in Lukla, beer in hand if you want a beer. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
definitely. A little bit of a favour to ask as well, guys. I know we haven't asked for this on the Tuesday tune-in, and I know there's a lot of Evertrekker veterans here today, and I was wondering, I will drop it in here as well, if any of you guys could leave us a review. So we're trying to get, I've got a bit of a challenge. Review. Yeah, that would be beneficial. If you've enjoyed today, if you've enjoyed a trip with us, if you've enjoyed Tuesday tune-in, whatever you want to comment on. Obviously, we're on the Tuesday tune-in, so if you wanted to leave us a review for this. Trustpilot is we're trying to get as many reviews as we can. I'll put the link there, and if you could leave us a review, that would be amazing. So yeah, I never really ask for favors, but yeah, we're trying to get a bunch of reviews on there. Obviously, Trustpilot, trusted platform, is something that we we use a lot, and we know that future Evertrekkers look at as well. So if there's anything that you find valuable, hopefully it's me and Dave or any of the team chatting about trips and hopefully giving you a little bit of advice that helps. If you've gone to Dave Remington, ChatGPT, write ace reviews. Is that what you've typed in? Well, anything to save time, Dave. Hopefully personalize it a little bit, right? Otherwise Trustpilot would be like, no, this is a fake review. No, but obviously if you have enjoyed any adventure with us and you haven't yet left a review, it would be great if you could do that. And as Dave said there, you could even use ChatGPT to speed it up.
Yeah.
Definitely. Jerome, any news on the travel awards? No, not yet, Jerome. We will update as soon as we know. It's I think the deadline's the end of the month, so we'll find out then.
What if we're in the shortlist?
If we're on the shortlist, because obviously we've been nominated, but then there's you get down to the final 3, which is great, and then we'll know then, and we'll be going to London to hopefully, fingers crossed, win another British Travel Award, which would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe if you guys, anyone on here hasn't voted, they can still get in and vote.
They can.
And maybe there's some linkage and that we could hook them up with.
And I know that there it is. Yes, there we go. Vote Evertrek 2024. If it's still open, it's open to the end of the month. So yeah, if you again, another favor, but if you have enjoyed even today anything about Evertrek over the last few years, it'd be awesome if you can vote for us. Means a lot as well because it's consumer voted. So these are Europe's largest travel award, consumer voted travel award. So it's just a panel going, yeah, you're bigger, you have this. It's voted for by consumers. So yeah, means a lot. And then it means as well that's also your award as well as ours. If you're part of the Evertrekker world, this is your award.
Yeah.
And you make this community and this company just as much as us.
Amazing. Pixie said this year on her birthday,
I'll leave
she'll
that
be waking up at Lukla having just completed the EDC hike.
Amazing.
Pixie, you need to email in and let the guys know in the office because I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes something can happen. That's all right, isn't it?
Right. I live near London. If you want me to collect the reward, to be fair, if there's anyone that's got a acceptance speech already prepared, I think Bry's got a few.
Yeah, he's got a fair few. I mean, you'll have to sort of change it up a bit,
Might have to kind of tweak it. I mean, ChatGPT again. Listen to Dave Remington there. I'm sure there's edits that can be made. Just keep well hydrated if you go there. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, well,
because we do.
It's an awards do, isn't it? So there's little else to do except get through the table.
Chat and drink. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good stuff. Great stuff. Any more questions, guys? Do fire in as well. I mean, Dave, whilst we're talking about, I know we've talked about a few different questions there, but actually, I do want to go back to some of the other challenges that we both faced.
Yeah.
Just I think it is valuable. I know you talked about your knee, and I hate to bring up this first trip again, but tell us a little bit about what was going through your mind when Toubkal didn't work out first time.
Oh, that was an amazing trip. Toubkal was one of them. My first ever trip to Toubkal. I think there was a couple of things going on there. I assumed that because I'd been a lot higher than the summit of Toubkal, that it would be an easy trip.
Yeah.
And I would just fly up to the top and down. And it's not the case. Toubkal is probably often underestimated because of its height.
Yeah.
But actually, it's like Mike Tyson. It was never the tallest heavyweight, but my God, it packs a punch.
Brilliant.
And
analogy of the week,
and so before we set off, and this was one where it couldn't have gone more wrong. We were filming Zach's first ascent at altitude.
That's right. Yeah, we were.
So we had a bloody film crew with us, and we went out there. But I didn't feel well in the week leading up to it, and I had a real bad sinus issue, which I suffered from on and off for years now.
Yeah.
And it was grim, man. It was bad. And then went to the doctors, and I remember that on the way to the airport, me and Andy stopped off so I could pick up my antibiotics.
Yeah.
So I started the course like the following day, pretty much as I arrived in Morocco, and these were quite strong antibiotics. And then that started. I believe it started the ball rolling where And I knew this was wrong because I started, and I was on the antibiotics, and I had this sinus infection, and we started walking, and it was quite a warm day. And we got really at the beginning of the hike. It was the start. And I was really having to work hard. It really was mad. It was, looking back, it was peculiar. I thought it was my fitness. I thought, wow, my fitness must just be awful because there's a bit when you start at Toubkal where you go across this, like it's like a gravelly football pitch where the locals have a kickabout.
That's great.
And then you start walking up and you're officially in the national park, and it's not that steep. You haven't done anything. It's just a couple of zigzags, and oh my god, I remember thinking like I just couldn't keep up with everyone. I couldn't do it, and that set the tone then. And then I was trying to keep up with everyone who was walking at a normal pace, and I just couldn't. And I stopped for lunch, and I was like, the sweat was just pouring off me. And then what happened was, because I was overexerting myself because I was unwell, and it was 38 degrees. I think, well, I know now that I got heat exhaustion, which I'd never had before, so I didn't recognize the symptoms. When I got
straight away, you were rough.
Yeah, when I got to the refuge, everyone else is, hey, it's good, yeah, let's have it, we're gonna go up, let's go. And I was just lying there like unable to move, but shivering a lot. And then that stayed all night, just constant shivering. Woke up in the morning, and I thought, well, I'm not gonna quit before I start, so I'll try. And then I got like a third of the way up the mountain, and I was like, oh, man, I cannot do this. This is horrendous. I'm not going to be able to do it. Turned around and went back down. And I remember that feeling of like turning around, leaving all your mates and the rest of the group go up, and you're going down on your own, like feeling like a right chump, like, oh god, let myself down, just, oh god.
What was going through your mind then? Was it that biggest thing about letting people down?
I think so. Yeah, it was more like I didn't want to let the group down by putting a dampener on it by turning back.
Yeah.
That's more in your own head. The group's fine without you. They don't really worry about you, like they head. Yeah, but they head up and they have a good time, But
because you've got your own battle. I know it's
because you're feeling bad. You feel really bad.
Yeah.
And then you worry that other people are like, oh, it would have been better if he was here and that type of thing.
What turned it around for you then? Like, obviously you went back and you've been and you've summited a couple of times now, Toubkal. Like, what was going through your mind when you get back? Were you urgent? Like, as soon as you got back, you were like, I'm going to smash that when I get back.
Well,
or what turned it around?
What made a big difference for me was when I got back and I got in to bed, I was clearly unwell.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't stop violently shivering.
Yeah.
And I felt really awful. Like, I could barely walk.
Yeah.
And then, but you're still in the midst of it then. But actually, once I got back to Marrakesh and I started to relax and make myself feel better, I gained some perspective pretty quickly that, do you know what? It was never on the cards. But that doesn't mean that I can't do it.
Yeah.
True. And
very true.
And I also know enough to know that sometimes the mountain just says no.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it could be you, it could be the mountain, but for whatever reason, you're not going to get access to the top that day.
Fair.
So what I did then was, I just had perspective on it. And I thought, you know what, I didn't make it that time, but that doesn't mean I can't make it.
Yeah.
And all of the people that I know that have turned back on EBC and then gone back and done it, they've not got to the summit of Kili, then they've turned back and done it.
Talking about Kili, James, how you doing? Papa Tembo. Sorry, James, I did see your WhatsApp earlier. Thanks, mate. I hope all is well.
Yeah.
I'll reply a bit later, but yeah, great. James knew, and I saw a photography question, and then James popped up, and I thought, if there's anyone that's going to help with the photography question, James.
Well,
but James has had his own battles, certainly tough moments, on Kili and James when we were hiking in Scotland that time on the Lara Grula, mate. It was a absolute beast, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But mate, it'd be great to catch up soon. But it certainly, I suppose, just sort of swinging back to what you said there, it was what was going through your mind, all that different stuff, and then going back and you must have felt amazing after reaching the summit then when you went back and finally.
Yeah, well, again, the mountain nearly said no the second time.
Yeah, because of the weather.
Yeah, it was definitely the coldest I've ever been on any peak or any trip.
Really?
Anywhere.
Bloody hell.
By a long margin.
Yeah.
But it was always, I always felt like, carry on. I'm all right. Yeah, and then when I did it, what was amazing actually was going back and trying it a second time under different circumstances. It gave me a strong sense of like reassurance.
Yeah.
That it wasn't me. That it was just the circumstances at that time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's what my life is destined to be every time I try. And so when I remember there was a few key moments, right, where one of them was the little acclimatization hike. I was like, feel great. Legs feel powerful.
Yeah.
And then I got to that point just after the gravel football pitch where you start going zigzagging up, and I walked up it like it was nothing. And I thought, yeah, I'm good.
Happy days.
I'm good. Like that was the bit I had in my mind.
Yeah.
That I was like, that was hell. I remember that distinctly. And when I got back up the second time, it reset my mind. Like, do you know what? Like your first experience or any singular experience is not the way it's going to be all the time. When you're on a longer trip, say the EBC, there's 11 days of that trek.
Yeah.
The same thing applies. You might have a really, really, really tough day on day 2. Getting to Namche might really knacker you. And
it's a tough day as well.
Yeah, and you start to think, Jesus, that's what it's going to be like every time. But it's not. You've just got to wake up and start again. And you'll realize that every day sometimes plays out a little differently. Sometimes better, sometimes a little worse. But on balance, no 2 days are the same. And you're not the same 2 days in a row either. So give yourself that opportunity.
Good man. Look, there's some good questions coming through as well. And I know we're talking about tough moments and, when the going gets tough, what we do and all that. But it's great. Any question is good today as well. And I know there's some different ones. I'll pick them up, Dave. We got
a couple that aren't any.
Oh, here we go. Alex, what's the most common item that people pack that they just don't need? We talked about this a couple of months ago, didn't we? And we come up with quite a lot. I think
penknife.
It's rare you use that, Dave. Yeah.
Rare you use a penknife. And actually, on the Lukla flight, if they see you with it, they'll take it off you.
They're not going to be too happy with that.
So
don't carry rocks. That is another one, as Jerome knows. Actually, Great Bolietti John also found hilarious.
That was one of my. This is one of the things I do to boost my own morale if I'm having a hard day. And usually, if I'm trekking with John, I'll think, how can I screw him over? And so, what I started to do at Lukla was I put like a small rock in his bag, in like the little section where the cover goes.
Yeah.
And then every so often, when he'd stop and put his bag down, I'd put another little rock in there.
God.
I think by the time we got to Loboucher, I think he had about 4 kilos of rocks in his bag.
Poor John.
Savagery, and I'm not recommending that, but it's my mate, and I'll do what I want.
Friends.
Yeah.
But no, it's certainly there are some things. I think Jerome put there sleeping bag liner. Yeah, it is very light, so it might not make a big difference. Some of them are obviously heavier than others. Sometimes you can take so many snacks, which isn't a bad thing. But I know I always come back with snacks. So try and kind of think about what you need each day. If you're out there for a week, don't take 2 weeks worth type thing. Think that if you are on these trips, do you really need 3 mid layers? Do you not get away with 1 or 2? Obviously, everyone's going to smell after 7 days of hiking anyway. So kind of be ruthless with, do I need 14 pairs of underwear? Could I get away with 7? I know it seems a bit like, oh, wouldn't do that on a daily basis. But when you're on a trek, you'll think a little bit differently about what you bring. But look, it's sometimes it's trial and error. The first time I went to base camp, my bag was heavy. It's definitely a lot lighter. It's not light, but it's lighter these days. I know because there's certain things that, like, I don't take as many mid layers. I don't take 2 waterproof jackets. I just take my 1. I take my down jacket. Sometimes I, depending if I know I'm going to have, if I'm in tea houses, I don't take my sleeping bag. I just take a sleeping bag liner. But then if you go in a really cold time of year, obviously it means you've got to carry certain types of equipment. But yeah, anything else you'd leave behind? Big stuff? Because I know it's hard, isn't it, to be ruthless sometimes.
It is, but then I find it hard to be. I'm quite ruthless anyway.
Yeah.
I like a light pack. So I think, like, generally speaking, I'll have 1 pair of shorts, 1 pair of light trousers, 1 pair of warmer trousers.
Yeah.
I don't need clean trousers every day. What do I need clean trousers for? They'll be clean for 5 minutes until I start walking around in the dust again. So yeah, I don't need loads of trousers. Base layers, I pack about 6 or 7 base layers because I get through them. You know, get sweaty. It's nice to have a clean one to put on. But other than that, down jacket, rain jacket, fleece, cap, beanie, gloves, neck buff,
usual stuff,
socks.
Yeah,
all of that in nowhere near 15 kilos. You know, it's all like that's the bare essentials.
Yeah.
But
another question here: any suggestions on photography kit over and above the helpful guide?
You'll need a lens. Make sure your ISO is right. And I would say
that's a James is going to shout at you.
I would also say like the aperture definitely needs to be open to let light in. Is that right, Ant?
So Dave, it always winds me up. Always winds one of our friends, Steve and James. But yeah, because clearly you know what you're talking about. But there are other equipment you can take. You can take lenses and stuff like that. Again, it's down to weight. I know first time I went to Everest Base Camp, I did take like a telephoto lens. I think it was a 70 to 200 mil. It was, so you can get super close-up shots of the mountains. Was a bit excessive. I mean, these days, you're taking photos with your phones. That being said, when we were on Kili with James, who was commenting earlier, and he was there to take photos, so we had, and James is a professional photographer, superbikes and videographer as well. Amazing photographer. So he had his massive lenses and all that, and obviously it is a weight, and we did have extra support for it. Generally, just taking what you can. Some people bring the standard lens that they use. If you're bringing a digital SLR or a mirrorless camera, if you're bringing a camera separate from your phone, certainly, and you're bringing different lenses, I say 2 max. One that you use day to day, and then another lens you want to use. Obviously, the more you take, then it's just extra weight. But yeah, that being said, completely up to you. Obviously, you've got to carry it as well, because I'd say if you take in your nice camera, always carry it with you. Don't leave it in your duffel bag, because they get thrown around, they get put on yaks, they get, they're not. I wouldn't put any kind of electronics in there. I'd carry those, and obviously, if you're carrying it, some of them are heavy. It's something else you got to take out there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sam Weller said, very keen to take a small stone from base camp to leave on my cousin's grave with permission from the guide if I'm able to. Yeah, mate, it's no problem. Everybody who goes there usually picks up a little pebble from EBC. Now, no one cares, you're just going around, find one that you like, put it in your pocket. The only thing you've got to be careful of is that some people go a bit mad and they pack quite a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
And if they catch them at the airport, they will take them off you. But honestly, in my experience, like as long as you're only taking like a small one, something like that, no one cares. I've got one on my desk.
Yeah.
There is an argument that some people think that it's better to leave them where they are and stuff like that, but you're not damaging the glacier, and you're not harming the environment by doing that. Most of the time, when people say to leave them where it is because there's a big issue with getting caught at Lukla with a big pile of rocks, and they don't want them on the plane and things like that. But other than that, yeah, mate, I've got one on my desk.
Yeah, and like I said, there's lots of opinions on it. I know, it's one of those things that, we don't like promote, like, take it from Everest Base Camp, but it's one of those that you can do. Like I know that lots of Evertrackers do for memories. Obviously, so it's completely up to you. Yeah, obviously, you get a nice little photo there as well. There are things, but yeah, if you do grab one, no worries. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? You don't have no stones there, but I know what you mean. They're never going to run out. Is what you're getting at.
It's a mad idea that you could pick up every rock, so it's just like a bare glacier. It's an interesting conversation actually, because we've had this before, and it's one of them ones that people feel strongly about, and it can be relatively controversial. But in my mind, what difference does it make?
Yeah, exactly.
I know people that will pick up a rock from Lukla, carry it up there, and swap it for one for base camp.
Nice, that's a good idea.
So there are people that have done that.
So then you go to get it from this is from base camp. It was actually from Lukla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So some poor guy is going to pick that up.
Yeah.
But
Berlin Wall. That's interesting.
Honestly, it's like the same. But then you see people like you've got the. Base camp and Everest. Everest is a sacred mountain.
Yeah.
Base camp is a relatively sacred place because of what happens there.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, when you see the expeditions come there, they're shoveling stones out the way and hammering stakes into the ground for their tents and stuff like that. You know,
it's very true.
So the way I look at it is, like, if you feel comfortable and you want to take a little pebble as a souvenir of where you've been, do it, because I do it. If you take a rock like this, then someone's probably going to have something to say about it. And if you take tons of them, you're probably going to get told off at Loughborough, you know?
Yes, Jerome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Michelle, are the Evertrek bags fully waterproof? So the ones that we use, they're not, because they're made of certain material, aren't they? I know they get thrown around a lot. They're pretty waterproof.
They have the covers, though.
They have the covers. That's what makes it waterproof, isn't it?
Like, to be honest, I've never known any waterproof item that if you submerge in water will not get wet. But yeah, they're relatively waterproof, as most duffel bags, you know, would be. Yeah. But they also have the rain covers as well. So if it is raining hard, they will cover them with the rain covers. I've been out dry. I have trekked in Nepal, and you have, in some of the worst monsoon rain I've ever experienced. Nuts. And when I got there, my bag was dry. Yeah, my contents was dry. I mean, having said that, I always have Ziplocs for certain things like electronics and things like that. So you can double up, and you have packing cubes and everything, and then I will pack things in bags because if everything's loose, it's a nightmare. Yeah. So yeah, using a Ziploc bag is a good idea anyway.
Yeah, and some people as well take like little kind of dry bags in their bag just to be sure, just to be certain that certain things don't get damp or wet. As Dave said, majority of the time, nothing is 100%. Even you can spend £500 on a Gore-Tex, you'll still get wet in some way if it's raining all day. And it's the same with these. But if it's a shower and stuff like that, it should be fine. Obviously, we've been 4 or 5 hours torrential rain and it's still dry because they are in. So essentially, you've got the duffel bag, which is 80 litres, inside essentially a big waterproof cover. So yeah, they do work. Nice, Dave. Yep. Well, I know we're coming towards the end now. It's flown by. We hope today has been, a little bit useful, talking about tough moments, lots of stories, that kind of stuff. Hopefully it's been a little bit useful.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts, Dave?
No, that's it. I think, there's always going to be tough moments. There's always going to be times where you want to give up. That's human nature whenever we're put under stress. I think you can mitigate that through training, through mindset, and remembering, why you wanted to go to the Himalaya. And also, one thing that I lose perspective of, and this other people might resonate, is that I lose perspective of how long I'm going to be suffering for.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think, oh God, I just want this to end. It's a few days of my life. I've got the rest of my life to sit and relax. But I'll always, if I quit because I'm tired or I quit because I'm fed up, I'll regret that. As long as you try your hardest and reach the goal, it doesn't matter if you make it or not.
Yeah, it's get them down safely, isn't it? That's
exactly,
and just enjoying it as well.
To me, getting to the summit of Kili, reaching Everest Base Camp, that's amazing. You've already won by trying.
Yeah.
By traveling to a foreign country at some far-flung corner of the world and, pitching yourself against the elements and yourself and trying to achieve something great. Who can fault you for that, whether you get to the top or not?
Exactly. Lovely. All right, guys. Well, I have put the review link there again, just in case anyone wants to leave us a little review from today as well. But otherwise, we'll be back next week. And thank you for joining in. Yeah, we'll catch you. Have an awesome week.
Awesome. Take it easy, guys.
Cheers, guys.